Lloyd was an orphan who got adopted by the strongest S-rank wizard and became an adventurer. But his party fired him because he was a useless support mage. However, no one except his teacher knows that he is actually the chosen hero who will defeat the Demon King. When Lloyd was just a boy, his hometown got destroyed because of the Demon King's attack. However, he survived and an S-rank adventurer wizard named Merlin found him. She seemed to have lost someone precious in the battle against the Demon King too, and to cope up with her loss, she decided to adopt Lloyd and take him as her disciple. Merlin takes him to her house, and the very first thing she does is create a fireball out of thin air. She tells the awestruck Lloyd that if he can't create fire using magic by evening, he can't have dinner. Lloyd keeps trying hard to create flames, and as soon as he succeeds, he excitedly runs to show it to his teacher. Merlin sarcastically tells him that he did good before blowing out his tiny fire and then roasting him medium rare, saying that he still has a long way to go. Soon after that, she shows him how to summon water from the ground, and Lloyd gets it right on the first try itself. However, instead of appreciating him, Merlin acts like a sarcastic again and drowns him in water to show him this is how it is supposed to be done. As days pass by, Lloyd learns new types of magic, but Merlin is never satisfied. Even when he creates an ice sculpture of her, she uses her magic to teach him a lesson. She controls the sculpture and grabs Lloyd before increasing the size of the statue, telling him that he lacks skills. She then breaks down the sculpture and Lloyd falls to the ground. Being the naive boy he is, he believes Merlin fully and promises to work hard to overcome his lack of skill. A few days later, Merlin gets a terrible hangover and Lloyd uses his magic to heal her, and the first thing she does after getting up is hugging and thanking him. The very next moment though, she drags him outside to practice magic. Time passes and one night, Merlin is looking at some ancient texts with a disturbed and painful expression on her face. Suddenly, Lloyd comes there to call her for dinner, and as she gets up, she accidentally drops the book on the ground. Lloyd helps her pick it up, but the moment he touches the book, all the information inside it is uploaded into his brain and he passes out. Merlin freaks out on seeing this because Lloyd just learned an ancient magic spell just by touching the book, which means he has the qualities of being the chosen one. That brings back some traumatic memories for Merlin, and she doesn't want Lloyd to repeat the same mistakes she did. So that night, as Lloyd sleeps peacefully, Merlin goes to his room and places a magic spell on his forehead through a kiss, sealing the knowledge of the ancient spell inside his brain because she doesn't want him to trust his power too much. To make sure that Lloyd doesn't go down the dangerous path, she even recommends him to become a white mage whose main role is to provide support to other adventurers. She teaches him recovery magic that can help fruits grow, and then shows the difference in their levels by casually reviving a dying tree. After that, Merlin continues teaching him about magic and other stuff, but whenever something related to ancient magic comes up, she tells him that he doesn't need to learn that because ancient magic went extinct hundreds of years ago. More time passes with Lloyd training under Merlin, and one day, she blindfolds him and takes him deep inside the forest full of dangerous monsters. She gives him just one knife and tells him to make it back home within a week using his magic. She doesn't even give him a chance to say anything and runs away, and Lloyd is left confused and scared. Almost immediately, a wolf monster arrives there, and Lloyd somehow avoids its attacks by climbing on a tree nearby. He realizes that the spells he can use as a white mage can't defeat the monsters, and the only thing he can do is walk home while avoiding the dangers. First of all, he uses his magic senses to find his home, and then starts walking in its direction. He uses magic to ripen fruits to eat, and at night, he tries coming up with new magic spells that can help him stay safe. He continues his dangerous journey alone, experimenting with new spells that can help him find food and run faster. The next day, he almost gets gobbled up by a spider monster, but thanks to his spell that makes him run faster, he is able to get away safely. Lloyd doesn't stop using the spell till he reaches home, and as a result, he collapses from exhaustion right in front of the door. Time passes quickly and Lloyd grows up to be a teenager, who gets curious about the outside world when he finds a magazine about the city nearby. Merlin's attitude around him has changed as well, and instead of dragging him to practice magic, she pulls him out of his daily chores to create new types of magic spells. She comes up with new ideas at the most random moments and makes him pull all-nighters consecutively to help her make those ideas a reality. Lloyd can't handle all that stress, and one night, he decides to run away from home to explore the world. The next morning, Merlin finds his room empty with just a magazine about the city on the desk, and she realizes that her little boy has finally grown enough to enter his rebellious phase. Meanwhile, Lloyd reaches the city and gets swept up in its momentum. He spends the small amount of money he has on food and wonders how can he earn more, when a recruitment notice for an adventuring party hits his face. He doesn't even notice that someone was watching him and decides to try his hand at becoming an adventurer. The first mission he takes after joining the party is fighting a Cyclops, and he is thrilled because he has never seen anyone fight such strong monsters before. The Cyclops is pushing back Alan, the leader and main DPS of the party, and he asks their healer to cast a healing spell on them. Lloyd decides to help out as well by instantly casting a support spell over all his party members, but none of them even realize it. The archer quickly shoots an arrow into the monster's eye, blinding it, and as it tries to take the archer out, the tanker named Riina rushes to block the attack. She is shocked because she feels almost no weight behind the punch, and in the meantime, the mage of the party binds the Cyclops, giving Alan the chance to finish it with one slash. Because of this, Alan becomes a star overnight and people begin hailing him as a hero. On the other hand, Lloyd is completely neglected and gets only loose change as his payment because he is D-rank white mage. He accepts that amount because he thinks he is only worth that, and when Alan says they should toast to their success, he quickly excuses himself because he doesn't drink. The girls are pissed because he refused Alan's offer, but he doesn't actually mind because he doesn't consider Lloyd a member of their party. He says that all white mages are useless, but they still need one to comply with the guild rules, and it doesn't make a difference if it is Lloyd or anyone else. Riina, however, thinks that there is something no one is paying attention to, and she is quite curious about Lloyd. On the other hand, the guy keeping tabs on Lloyd turns out to be Merlin's informant, and he gives her constant updates about her student. Merlin says that she is not worried about Lloyd as long as he doesn't get too arrogant, and the spy will ask her if she regrets what happened in the past. Merlin bites her lips as she recalls the day she fought against the Demon Lord with her party led by hero Sybil. The Demon Lord could not win against them, so he decided to self-destruct instead, destroying an entire city with him. Hero Sybil used the ancient magic to revive all the people who died because of the Demon Lord's attack, but he had to sacrifice his life to do that. Losing him was a great blow to Merlin, and while she adopted Lloyd just as a coping mechanism, she never thought he would be a chosen one just like Sybil. She swears that she will never repeat her mistakes, and she will do whatever is necessary to keep Lloyd safe. Back in the city, Alan quickly becomes a big shot after slaying powerful monsters thanks to Lloyd's support. Of course, no one notices this except Riina, who only has a faint idea about it. One night, Alan receives a request from the soldiers to defeat some golems that are killing their troops near a patrol point. Alan quickly takes up the offer, thinking that it will be quite easy. He takes his party to the patrol point, and Lloyd uses his magic search to find that they need to enter the waterfall to fight the golems. Once inside, Alan fights the golems, but a summoner keeps creating new ones each time. Lloyd realizes that the summoner is using a magic stone to create new golems, and he quickly buffs the archer, telling her to shoot the summoner. She obeys him, and her arrow somehow curves around a pillar to hit the summoner in the chest. Lloyd then orders the wizard to teleport the magic staff to him, and he immediately seals it as well. This doesn't sit well with Alan, who feels that only he can give orders to his party. He then decides to focus on the golem, and Lloyd warns him to step back because the golem is out of control after losing its master. Alan doesn't listen to him and charges ahead, and Lloyd has to use a special magic to catch up to him and save his ass from getting squashed by the stone giant. Alan gets angry at him, and just then the golem powers down, giving him the chance to destroy it. Once the mission is over, Alan immediately fires Lloyd, saying that he is useless and always hides at the back. Lloyd, who has been gaslighted all this time into believing that he has skill issues, accepts the decision without fighting back. He tries searching for another party to join, but there are no vacancies and he feels disappointed. Luckily, a girl is looking for a free white mage urgently, but the receptionist tells her that it will be hard to find someone who can meet her conditions. With no other options left, the receptionist points at Lloyd, and as soon as the pink-haired bitch confirms that he is an unemployed white mage, she drags him along with her. Turns out that the pink-haired girl Yui is a member of an S-rank adventure party, and they recently went out to hunt some bandits. Their teamwork and superior strength allowed them to easily defeat the bandits, and they cornered the boss too, telling him to surrender. However, the boss decided to pull out his secret move and summoned a giant stone golem to fight against them. Yui's party realized that it was resistant to magic and weak physical attacks wouldn't do much against it either. So she decided to face it herself, being the strongest damage dealer of her party. She dashed towards the golem and striked it with her full power, but she could only leave a scratch on the golem's body. She had to back away and dodge the golem's attack, and then she asked their party's white mage to buff her up. The white mage seemed to be lost in her thoughts, and it took her a second to process what Yui had just said. Luckily, she was able to cast a spell to increase her strength in time, allowing Yui to defeat the golem with her next attack. After they arrested all the bandits, Yui went to talk with the white mage Clum, who apologized for spacing out earlier because it could have cost Yui her life. Yui told her not to think too much about it, because she knew that Clum was dealing with some serious personal issues at the moment. She asked her about how everything was going at her home, and then Clum suddenly handed her resignation to Yui, because she needed to take a break to look after her sick sister. That leads us to the present moment, where Yui eagerly grabs Lloyd's hand and drags him to her base. Her party members take a moment to process that she found a white mage because they were sure that she would fail. Yui then introduces Lloyd to everyone, but she doesn't even know his name yet. After that, she introduces her party to him, which includes Daggaz, the shield user, Cross, the archer, and Silica, the mage. Lastly, she introduces herself as the swordsman and the party leader, welcoming Lloyd to their party. Lloyd asks her when did he consent to joining the party, and Yui is taken aback because she didn't even realize that she never asked him the main question. Daggaz and Silica understand that she eagerly dragged this stranger to the base without explaining everything, and they apologize to him for that. After that, they turn to Yui, telling her that even if she found a white mage, he can't replace Clum, and they should give up on their current quest. Yui gets upset on hearing this and says that their client asked them for help, and they can't turn them down like this. Lloyd asks them why don't they let another party take the quest, and Daggaz tells him that it is not possible because they are dealing with an A-rank quest. Only parties ranking A and above can take on such quests, but currently, all A-rank parties are out of town, and only they can accept this mission because they are an S-rank party. Lloyd is shocked to hear that he is standing in front of S-rank adventurers, and he really wants to help them, but once again, his low self-esteem makes him believe that he is too weak to be of any use. However, Yui suddenly speaks up on his behalf, telling her party members that they should at least give Lloyd a chance to prove his abilities before they rule him out. She takes him to the woods to show his skills, and Lloyd feels nervous, thinking that he is going to disappoint everyone here. Yui keeps telling him to do something, and Daggaz asks her to at least tell the newbie what kind of spell he should cast because he looks confused. Yui asks Lloyd to cast enchantment magic on all of them, but Cross and Silica think that it will not be possible because only very skilled white mages can do that. However, Lloyd is shocked because after hyping up the job as the most difficult thing in the world, Yui just asked him to cast a very basic level spell. He asks her if she is sure that this is the test he needs to pass to join her party, and she affirms. The other party members tell Lloyd that he doesn't need to act strong if he can't do it, because they know how difficult it is. However, Lloyd tells them that he will do it. He quickly summons his staff out of the dimensional storage, and that is already enough to shock everyone. He then casts 5 different types of enchantment spells on them at once, and they don't even realize it because he is too fast. Yui asks him where did he pull that staff out of, and he tells her about the storage spell that he can use to keep things. He then asks if she is satisfied with the results of the enchantment spell, and Yui is confused because usually it takes more time and an incantation to do that. Everyone starts feeling lighter and stronger as a result of the spells, and to try out the effects, Yui swings her sword at a big tree nearby. She is able to cut through the tree cleanly, even with a gentle swing, and her entire party is flabbergasted at this. Lloyd then tells them that he cast 5 types of enchantment spells on them, and they almost can't believe what they hear. Lloyd explains that he thought casting just one spell on all of them was too simple to be the real test, so he tried to go beyond that and show what he can really do. Yui and others are too stunned to even reply, and Lloyd thinks that they are just disappointed by him. He returns his staff to the storage, saying that he understands that he is not fit to be the white mage of their party. He apologizes for wasting their time and begins walking away, but then Yui stops him. She finally bothers to ask Lloyd about his past work experience, and he shocks everyone by revealing that he was fired from the hero's party for being too weak. Yui and others wonder what kind of standards the hero has for calling Lloyd too weak, because they have never seen anyone who can cast 5 enchantment spells at once. When Lloyd still insists that he is weak, Cross begins to worry more about his standards. Lloyd changes the topic by asking them why don't they call their party's white mage back, and Yui explains that Clum's sister is really sick, and she was taking care of her while working as an adventurer the entire time. Naturally, it took its toll on her, and she could no longer do both the things, so she decided to take a break from being an adventurer. Daggers says that they could have completed most quests even without her here, but A-rank quests are quite difficult, and they definitely need a white mage to do them. Everyone suddenly gets worried about Clum because even though she left their party, she is still their friend, and Lloyd feels jealous on hearing this. He quickly changes the topic and asks if anyone knows what disease Clum's sister is suffering from. Yui recalls that the girl's body is turning to Magistone gradually, and Lloyd remembers that he learned about Magistones from his master. When Merlin was teaching him how Magistone can turn other living creatures into Magistone as well, Lloyd had wondered if it is possible to restore them to normal, and now he decides to find it out. He asks Yui to lead him to Clum's house, and she takes him there. A very thin and tired Clum opens the door and gets surprised to see her friend there, and once they go inside, Lloyd gets straight to work. He asks Clum to tell him in detail about her sister's condition, and she says that originally, she and her sister Sylvie used to go on adventures together. However, one day, she got injured during a mission, and ever since then, she has been sick. Lloyd asks her for the symptoms, and Clum decides to show him rather than explaining with words. Just as she opens the door to Sylvie's room, an intense malicious mana leaks out, and then Clum removes her sister's blanket, showing that her hands and legs have already turned to Magistone. She says that Sylvie's mana has gone berserk and her condition keeps worsening day by day. Clum fears that her sister doesn't have long to live, and then Lloyd asks her to let him help her. He says that he has a theory that can turn Sylvie back to normal if he is right, but Clum refuses to believe him because even the specialist healers she called to look at her sister said it was impossible to cure her condition. However, Lloyd explains that Sylvie might have been injured by a high-purity Magistone, which started turning her into a Magistone too. He asks Clum if Sylvie was injured in a place with high mana density, and she affirms, saying that they were on a mission to extract a Magistone out of a cave. Lloyd asks her to show him the entry wound, and when Clum reveals Sylvie's waist that has been turned into Magistone too, Lloyd is certain that this is where the problem started. Clum asks him how does he know all that, and he replies that he learned it from his master. Yui then asks Clum to trust Lloyd with this one, and she decides to give him one chance. Lloyd immediately casts a spell to absorb all the corrupted mana from Sylvie's body, but that is quite hard for him to handle as well. Anyway, he manages to pull through the first step, telling Clum that he needed to reduce Sylvie's mana to near zero, because otherwise there would be no point in healing her. He says that he will continue absorbing her mana while healing her, and casts another spell to start the healing. Clum realizes that it is not the usual healing spell, and Lloyd tells her that this is a more powerful version that is highly inefficient, but it also allows him to burn the mana he is absorbing from Sylvie. Clum is speechless on hearing this, and Yui asks her if Lloyd is doing something impressive. She replies that he is casting 2 self-made spells at the same time while enduring a tremendous amount of mana, both of which would be impossible for even the greatest white mages. Soon, Lloyd's method shows its results, turning back Sylvie's petrified body to normal. As a result, Sylvie regains consciousness, and Clum starts crying tears of joy on seeing this. Later, she tells Yui and Lloyd that once her sister recovers, they both will go on adventures together again, and she wants Lloyd to support her party in her place. He tells her that he is not qualified enough for that, but that statement goes above Clum's head and she asks him to do what his heart says. After that, Yui and others throw a party to celebrate Sylvie's recovery, and they thank Lloyd, who still thinks that he is not worthy of it. However, he sees how well everyone treats him here even though they just met, and he nervously asks them to let him join their party even though he lacks strength. Everyone is pleasantly surprised by his change of mind, and they gladly welcome him to their party. After that, they throw a welcome party for Lloyd and tell him to eat as much as he wants because they are going to cover the bill tonight. Lloyd starts eating like he has never seen food before, and his new party members are quite amused to see that. They ask him if he was so hungry, and Lloyd tells them that the food in this town is really amazing. That is another shock to everyone because the food here is quite average. But Lloyd tells them that compared to what he has been eating since childhood, the food here has amazing flavor. Yui is curious about his childhood now, and Lloyd tells her that he used to live with his teacher, who cooked whatever grew in her garden. She collected wild mushrooms sometimes, and other times she would simply roast meat from wild beasts and then give it to him without any seasoning. Lloyd says that because of that, he learned to cook, but even then, he could never make food as good as this. Yui doesn't even care about food at this point, and she is more curious about the person who taught Lloyd magic. She asks him to tell her more about his teacher, and the other party members also join the bandwagon. Silica asks if his teacher is also a white mage, and Lloyd says that she is more of a combat-oriented mage because he often saw explosions when she was working alone. Silica is amazed that someone who is not a white mage trained Lloyd so well, and he agrees that Merlin is beyond amazing. Silica says that she would love to learn a thing or two from her, but Lloyd stops her right there, telling her that she would regret this statement for the rest of her life if she learns the truth. Anyway, after discussing some more about Merlin, the party decides to hold a strategy meeting for their mission, and Yui asks Daggers to explain the mission details to Lloyd because she sucks at giving presentations. Daggers tells Lloyd that their mission is to defeat monsters that are destroying local farms, and Silica tells him that multiple species of monsters have come together to form a pack. That is the first time Lloyd is hearing such a thing, and Daggers says that it is new information for them too, but they need to take it seriously. Suddenly, Cross remarks that since they are against a huge number of enemies, he and Yui will struggle because physical attack dealers aren't good at handling mobs. Yui agrees, saying that Silica will have to carry them this time because she can use wide area spells. But even Silica is nervous because using wide area spells consumes too much mana. Yui then asks Lloyd if he can use attack magic, and he replies that he can use basic level spells, but the result is not that impressive. Daggers then moves on to the strategy formation part, and says that he and Yui will gather the monsters in one area so that Silica can attack them at once. Cross will protect Silica and Lloyd, who will focus on healing and support. After that, everyone heads to the inn to get some rest, but Lloyd starts walking in another direction. Daggers stops him, asking where is he going, and Lloyd nervously replies that he is too broke to afford a room in the inn. Daggers immediately gives him a pouch that has more money than the sum of all the money Lloyd has seen in his entire life. He gets flustered and tells Daggers that he can't accept it, but he replies that this is not charity because he will subtract this amount from his salary. Lloyd can't refuse now, and he thanks Daggers, promising that he will work his best to repay the amount. The next morning, everyone gathers in front of the inn, and Yui is the last one to arrive. She asks everyone where their bags are, and they excitedly tell her that Lloyd put them all in his magic storage so they don't have to worry about carrying them. Yui immediately takes up the offer as well, and Lloyd quickly puts her stuff in the magic storage. Yui and Silica start glazing his amazing skills, but Lloyd tells them that he can teach it to all of them. Everyone is shocked to hear this because they have never seen anyone other than Lloyd use this magic, but he assures them that it is fairly easy to learn, even though increasing the storage capacity needs some training. With that, they depart on their mission, and on the way, Lloyd learns the importance of having fun during long quests. They reach their first campsite way earlier than scheduled because they don't have to carry the luggage, and there, Lloyd takes out the stuff from magic storage so that they can set up their tents. Yui decides to go splash around in the river now that they have set up tents, but Daggers scolds her, saying that they still have to collect firewood and food. Lloyd volunteers to collect firewood, and Yui thanks him for reducing the workload. She then drags Silica away with her so that they can take a bath, and in the meantime, Lloyd goes to the forest and collects some dried sticks. He then spots the fruit he used to eat in his childhood and decides to take a handful for his party members, when suddenly, he hears Yui screaming. He rushes towards the direction of the scream and finds a giant serpent monster attacking Yui and Silica, who are completely defenseless against it. Lloyd immediately rushes in to help them, attacking the monster to grab its attention. Using this chance, Yui and Silica rush to the shore, and Lloyd waits for them to cover their bodies with a towel before tossing their weapons to them. He then instantly casts 2 enchantment spells on them, and Yui immediately lunges at the monster, cutting it in 2 with a single strike. However, even the severed head of the monster puts up a fight, and Silica tells Yui and Lloyd to take cover before she shoots a fireball at it, taking it down in 1 hit. She is shocked because she usually doesn't have that kind of firepower, but it doesn't come to her mind that Lloyd buffed her up. Meanwhile, Yui thanks him for saving their asses and asks him to put her sword back in the storage again, when suddenly, her towel drops and Lloyd gets to see the plot she'd been hiding. Both of them freak out, and Lloyd gets slapped even though it was not his fault. Anyway, once they return to the campsite, Lloyd decides to teach everyone how to use storage magic. He tells them to open up a space using their palms at first, but they don't understand how to do it. However, on Silica's advice, they give it a try, but they just look like a bunch of morons squishing an invisible balloon. Lloyd feels that he is a bad teacher because he can't teach it to them. But then suddenly, Silica chants storage, and she is able to open up a magic space. Everyone suddenly realizes that they can't cast spells without incantation like Lloyd, but if they can use chants, they can figure it out eventually. After a bit of practice, Silica is able to store her staff in the magic space, but others struggle to do it. Later at night, while the rest of the party is sleeping, Lloyd and Yui are on watch. Yui suddenly sits in front of him, thanking him for joining the party, and he replies that he was also jobless so he should thank her. He then remembers how determined she was to complete the quest because their clients needed help, and asks her if there is any special reason why she is so dead set on doing this quest. Yui tells him that when she was little, her village was attacked by monsters, and she was the only survivor. So when she heard about the quest, she couldn't stop herself from accepting it because she wanted to save people from the situation she had faced. Suddenly, Lloyd cuts her off, telling her to be silent because there are monsters nearby. Yui gets alert and summons her sword, while Lloyd tells her to go and wake everyone up. Soon, the entire party is ready to face the spider monsters, but they realize that their numbers are too huge, and they should retreat for now. They start walking back slowly, but then unfortunately, Yui steps on a twig, and the sound attracts the attention of the monsters. Everyone runs as fast as they can, but the spiders catch up and surround them. They start squirting webs out of their butts, and the adventurers block the first round of attack. But then one spider ties Silica's staff and takes it away from her. The spiders then trap them in a cage of silk, and everyone panics. Lloyd says that they should stop the spiders right where they are before trying to defeat them. He quickly enchants his teammates and then tells Yui to attack first. She leaps up, cutting through the silk web, and then returns Silica's staff to her. In the meantime, Yui rushes towards a spider, blocking its sticky spray and then quickly chopping off its legs. She then surfs on the silk squirt of the spider to quickly travel towards the second one, cutting off its legs as well. Next, Lloyd tells Silica and Cross to join the offense. Silica creates some fireballs and Cross shoots arrows through them, setting the spiders on fire with the burning arrows. The fight ends with that, and Lloyd realizes that he started yelling orders even though he is the newest member of the party. He apologizes for getting carried away, but Dagus tells him that it was a good thing because he has the qualities of a natural-born leader. Everyone else agrees with him, and they tell Lloyd to keep playing an active part in leading the party during battle. The next morning, everyone has learned the magic storage spell well enough to carry their own luggage, and as they resume their journey, Lloyd keeps thinking about why the spider monsters were here. A couple days later, as Lloyd is keeping watch alone at night, he starts thinking about the spider monsters again. He believes that they should have inspected them a bit more when suddenly, Yui and Silica call his name, asking him if he plans to be on guard alone tonight as well. Lloyd affirms, and the girls grow worried about him because he has been pulling all-nighters for quite some time now. They tell him that he should rotate the night shift with others, but Lloyd tells them that he will be fine, and he wants everyone else to conserve their stamina in case they need to fight. Yui is about to give him a lecture, but then Silica stops her, asking her to respect Lloyd's decision, but she also asks him to inform them if things get too tough for him. Meanwhile, Cross and Dagas just watch this scene from their tent, worried about Lloyd's stubbornness. The next day, they resume their journey, and as they take a break, Lloyd tries detecting any monsters near them. He is relieved when he senses none, but then Yui comes running to him, asking what is he doing. He tells her about the search magic that allows him to locate monsters and other threats nearby, and Yui is surprised because this is her first time hearing about that spell. Lloyd tells her that it doesn't have a very wide range, but it is still better than nothing. Yui gets worried because he is taking all the burden of watching their surroundings on himself, but he tells her that he is fine and doesn't need any help. That night, as Lloyd keeps watch all by himself yet again, Yui says that it seems that he doesn't trust them at all, even though they are friends now. Silica tells her that different people have different pace of getting comfortable with each other, and there must be some trauma in Lloyd's past that makes him stay away from others. She also believes that there is a reason Lloyd can't see how awesome he is, and that is why he tries to compensate for it by working too hard. Yui gets curious about Lloyd's past on hearing this, but Silica tells her that he will tell them everything once he gets comfortable with them. On the other hand, Dagas approaches Lloyd, asking him to come with him because he needs some help, while Cross volunteers to keep watch in his place for the time being. Lloyd goes with Dagas, who sets up an elaborate trip alarm that can alert them in case any monsters approach their campsite. Lloyd is impressed by this, and then Dagas tells him that the alarm will alert them about the monsters, so he should get some rest. Lloyd says that there is no need for that, and he can do a better job than this alarm, but then Dagas suddenly confronts him, asking if he doesn't trust the party. Lloyd replies that he trusts them, but Dagas tells him that his actions seem to say otherwise. Lloyd remembers the words of Merlin and his former boss, both of whom told him that he was inexperienced and useless. He tells Dagas that if he doesn't work hard, he may cause problems for others, but Dagas confidently tells him to cause troubles for them in that case. Lloyd doesn't understand what he means, and Dagas explains that they formed a party to handle things as a team that they couldn't handle on their own, and obviously, everyone causes some problems sometimes. He asks Lloyd to rely more on his team, and that is the first time the dimwit has heard of that concept. Dagas manages to convince him to get some rest with that, and in the tent, Lloyd smiles to himself, thinking about how he has people he can rely on now. The next morning, he puts this concept to practice and nervously asks Yui if she can help him fetch some water, and she is glad to help him. On the other hand, a noble named Michelle receives a report from a shady black mage, telling him that he has planted magic stones in all the spots he told him to. Michelle is pleased to hear this because now they can succeed in their plan without much difficulty, and the mage adds that their previous plans have scattered the high-ranking adventurer parties around, and they won't be able to interfere with their plans. However, the hero's party is still available, and they may be an obstacle in their way. Michelle replies that they can't do anything about that because the hero's party only moves when they get command from the king, but he believes that the hero alone won't be able to stop what is coming next. Back in the forest, Lloyd and his party find it odd that there are no monsters near them at all. Lloyd decides to widen the range of his search spell, and he is able to locate a group of monsters 10 kilometers ahead. Cross remarks that it must be really close to the farms they are heading towards. But before Lloyd can tell him the details, Yui jumps into the conversation, asking Lloyd if he can really search things in a 10-kilometer radius. He affirms, and she goes mad because the other day he told her that his range isn't that big. Lloyd tells her that 10 kilometers is not that big, and Yui starts screaming at him. But then the other party members tell her to focus on the bigger problem for now. They rush towards the location of the monsters and find that they have already reached the farmlands that they were supposed to defend. They are shocked by the incredibly huge pack of wolf monsters, but Lloyd is more worried because this was the only place that he could find monsters in. He wonders where the rest of the monsters have gone, and the rest of the party finds that strange too because monsters usually don't leave their territory. While everyone is wondering about the reasons, Cross spots something really strange in the middle of the wolf pack. The others can't see it because they don't have eyes as sharp as him, so Lloyd uses a spell to give himself telescopic vision. Thanks to that, he is able to see a strange black rock in the middle of the wolf pack. He then casts the same spell on other members of the party, and they can see the rock too. Dagas remarks that it looks like a magistone, and Silica says that the black aura around it is worrying. Lloyd says that it must be the mana releasing from it, and then he realizes that the mana feels familiar to that of the beast folks. He remembers that Merlin once told him that beast folk have a special spell that allows them to control monsters, and the Magistone seems to be doing the same thing. Lloyd immediately casts his search spell again, and he notices another huge group of monsters approaching them. He now understands that the Magistone is the cause of all their problems, but he still can't understand the reason behind that. The party members think that they should escape for now, but Yui refuses, saying that the monsters will destroy the fields if they go. Dagas also agrees that escaping in this situation won't be easy for them, but Silica doesn't think that they can win this fight. Suddenly, Lloyd declares that they should fight, and he is confident that they can win if they follow his plan. He says that they need to get rid of the Magistone first and asks Cross if he can shoot it. Cross is not confident he can break it from this distance, but Lloyd tells him it is fine as long as he can hit it. Cross takes his aim, and then Lloyd puts 3 enchantment spells on him, thanks to which, his arrow is able to shatter the Magistone. Cross asks him how he did it, and Lloyd replies that he enchanted him, his bow and his arrows, which is just standard for someone like him. But everyone else is shocked because normal white mages can't enchant people and weapons at the same time. Just then, they notice the wolves fighting amongst each other because once the Magistone was destroyed, their natural ferocity returned. Lloyd was counting on this, and he remarks that the first part of his plan is successful, but unfortunately, the monster horde coming towards them has not stopped yet. Soon, the monster horde comes out of the forest and Silica stands in front of the crew all by herself to attack them. The monsters begin coming dangerously close to her, but Lloyd waits till the last moment to give her the command to attack. She immediately creates a fire tornado that wipes out all the monsters coming towards her, and everyone is surprised because they have never seen this kind of firepower before. Lloyd asks Silica to keep blasting the monsters with wind and fire magic, and then he goes to Cross. Since the fire from Silica's attack has created a lot of smoke, the flying monsters have been blinded, but they are also hidden from them. Lloyd first connects his senses to Cross using telepathy, and then relays the location of the flying monsters using his search skill. Once Cross can see where the monsters are, he shoots them all down without missing a single shot. Lloyd then runs back to Silica for the final part of their plan, but she tells him that she is all out of mana. That is no problem for Lloyd as he becomes a walking power bank and shares his mana with her. He collapses because he gave her a bit too much mana too suddenly, but he tells Silica not to worry about him and cast a spell to make it rain. Silica does as he says, and the rains quickly put out the forest fire, preventing it from spreading beyond their control. However, she also runs out of mana with that and falls to the ground, but Daggaz catches her. Yui tells her that she did great, and now she and Daggaz will deal with the leftovers. While they rush ahead to find the monsters remaining on the battlefield, Silica and Lloyd take a break. Lloyd suddenly falls to the ground, saying that he needs to work harder because he shouldn't be tired after doing just this little work. Soon after that, Yui and others deal with the remaining monsters, but as they return to check up on Lloyd, he tells them that they need to head to the nearby city, because his instinct tells him that this place was just a decoy, and the real target is the city of Ishtar. Everyone is confused at this, and Lloyd pulls out a crate of mana potions from his storage dimension. He chugs a potion as he explains that the whole mission was a trap to send high-ranking adventurers out of Ishtar to weaken its defense. Cross remarks that Ishtar has the Heroes Party as well as the Night Order, so it won't be easy to take its defenses down. Daggaz, however, believes that Lloyd's theory makes sense. Yui decides to head back to Ishtar immediately just in case, and Lloyd casts a buff on the entire party just as he finishes his mana potion. He then tells Yui that they should start immediately and begins running towards the city. Everyone is shocked on seeing how fast he is, but as Yui tries to catch up to him, she finds that she can also run faster than I show speed now. The rest of the group follows them, and they are not really surprised when Lloyd tells them that he boosted their speed so that they can reach the city quickly. Meanwhile, Michel is doing some paperwork in his mansion when suddenly, the demon General Grist appears there, telling him that his army is ready for action. Michel is pleased to hear this, and the two men discuss how easy it was for them to send an army to the city of Ishtar without anyone noticing, thanks to the powers of a beastfolk girl they kidnapped. Michel says that they will keep using her powers for their benefit in the future, and Grist leaves that matter to him. On the other hand, Lloyd and others are rushing towards Ishtar, and they take a break to catch their breath. They are confident that they will reach Ishtar quickly at this rate, but Silica is worried that Lloyd might be getting tired because it is really hard to maintain enchantment magic. He replies that it is hard for people who are not used to it, but his teacher basically forced him to use it a lot, and he developed a habit to cast enchantment spells for a long time. He tells her about the time Merlin threw him into a forest, and since he couldn't beat the monsters, he simply ran away. That forced him to develop new and more efficient spells to stay fast. He says that the training was hellish, but since Merlin scolded him a lot for having trouble with it, he must have just been bad. He believes that this is a regular training method, but Silica and Yui tell him that it is not normal at all. Lloyd's dumb thinks that his training was even weaker than regular training methods, and he decides to train even harder. The girls can't even tell him how wrong he is, and then Daggaz and others get refreshed to resume their journey. Lloyd casts the speed increase buff on them and then uses his search magic as well to make sure there are no monsters nearby. They resume the journey with that, but then Lloyd suddenly stops, forcing everyone to crash on him. They ask him what the hell is wrong with him, and he replies that his search skill detected something, but it is not a human or a monster. He has a bad feeling about it, so he tells everyone to go on ahead without him while he checks out the source of the uneasy feeling. However, Yui tells him that in case it turns out to be something dangerous he can't handle on his own, he will need their help, and he agrees to that. They soon reach a hut and Lloyd is now sure that he can sense demons inside it. The party is shocked to hear this because demons are found on the other side of the mountains and they should not be here. Lloyd says that demons are banned from entering human territory, so they shouldn't be here, but everyone else reminds him that they have been ignoring the ban and attacking humans for the past few years. They ask him why is he acting like he didn't know this, and Lloyd tells them that he doesn't have any memories of his childhood, because he was adopted right after the war ended. Everyone gets worried that they might have triggered some bad memories, but Lloyd assures them that he is fine. Cross says that they need to return to the city and report this matter to the knights urgently, but Lloyd says that they should gather some more information first. He feels the same energy from the demons as they felt from the Black Magistone earlier, and everyone gets alert on hearing this. Lloyd says that if these demons are really planning to attack Ishtar, their investigation becomes even more important. Yui agrees with him because if they don't do anything, Ishtar might be in danger, and everyone agrees with her. They get close to the house, but there is no one inside. So Lloyd uses his search skill again, and finds that the demons are under the ground instead of the house. Dagus says that they should look for an entrance, but Lloyd decides to skip that part. He tells Silica to use earth magic, but before that, he buffs up everyone. Silica then creates a sand pit in the ground in front of them, causing the roof of the underground tunnel to cave in on the demons trying to perform a ritual. The demons scatter to avoid the falling debris and Yui immediately jumps in, taking one of them by the throat. She asks what demons are doing on this side of the continent when suddenly another demon uses his magic to throw the debris at her. Yui easily blocks it all and then cross-shoots a demon while another one escapes. The demons hide behind the rubble, but then Silica uses her skill again to turn the rocks into sand, exposing them. They try to attack her, but Dagas blocks their attempt, forcing them to run away. One of the demons escapes the room, and when Yui tries to chase him, she can't open the door. Two more demons try to ambush her, but Cross pins their robes to the ground, making them easy targets for Yui to take down. With that, they defeat 3 of the demons, and then rush to capture the last one, who imprisons the Beast Girl in a cocoon and takes her away with him. Lloyd and others reach there just then, and they decide to give chase as the demon runs away. Yui and Cross reach him first, and they decide to sandwich him from both sides, while Lloyd and others take their time coming to the surface. Lloyd can sense a very strong magic signal from the cocoon, and he tells his friends to capture it at all costs. Soon, Yui cuts off the demon's path, and he realizes that he is surrounded on all sides. Lloyd tells him to surrender because they have some questions to ask of him, but the demon decides to fight back instead. He creates a magic circle to launch an attack, but Lloyd reacts quickly, creating shields in front of his friends that cause the magic attack to bounce off and hit the demon in the end. He goes down with that, and then Lloyd immediately rushes to bring the cocoon down and free the Beast Girl inside it. They take her back to the cottage and Lloyd decides to heal her because she is the only one who can tell them anything because the demons are all dead now. Yui and Silica are impressed as his healing magic begins to act quickly and Lloyd tells them that he made some adjustments to the spell. This shocks both of them because it is not easy at all to change spells, but Lloyd tells them that his teacher often forced him to help her create new spells, so this is nothing for him. The girls are again curious about his master, and Lloyd tells them that she is just a weirdo. Just then, the Beast Girl awakens and Yui immediately gets on top of her, bombarding her with questions. The girl nervously tells her that her name is Claire, but Yui hears her wrong, and she decides to go with whatever the hell she hears. Yui then asks her why was she captured by the demons, and Claire is hesitant to answer, so Lloyd tells her that they are adventurers who rescued her. He then remarks that he has heard that some beast folk can use magic to control monsters, and asks if it was her ability that controlled the monsters in the farms they visited. Claire affirms that it was her magic and tells Lloyd that the demons made her do it. Now that all the facts are in front of them, Lloyd and others are sure that the demons want monsters to attack Ishtar because that is the gateway to the continent. They decide to head back immediately to protect it and take Claire with them too. As they stop to take a break, Lloyd senses a large number of monsters heading towards the city, and an even larger army following right behind them. He fears that they can't fight all of them alone, so he decides to take a drastic step. He tells Yui and others to rush to the city and warn the knights, while he stays behind with Claire, using her power to stop the monsters. Meanwhile, in the city, Lloyd's former party leader, Hero Alan, is troubled by another issue. He has not been able to find a white mage to replace Lloyd, because he rejects everyone just by looking at their resumes. The girls in his party nervously tell him that even the best candidates can only cast 2 enchantment spells at once, and Alan calls them a bunch of incompetent morons. The shield user Rena says that maybe Lloyd was special, and Alan mocks her for even thinking something so stupid. Just then, a knight enters the room, telling Alan that he has an urgent message for him. He reports that their forest patrol unit spotted a massive monster army heading towards them, and they need the hero's help immediately. Alan and his party are shocked to hear this, but he decides to accept the request, and the knight is really happy to hear this. He immediately leaves to relay the good news to other knights, but as he goes, the girls ask Alan if they can really fight such a huge monster army without a white mage. He replies that it is a direct request from the kingdom, and they should accept it to score some brownie points. More than that, he wants to show the world that he is still the strongest, even without a useless support mage in his team. On the other hand, Lloyd and Claire reach a cliff from where they can see another monster horde, which is even larger than the one heading towards Ishtar. Lloyd panics, realizing that if this group combines with the attackers, the city will be done for. He says that they need to defeat them here somehow, and Claire asks if there is a way to stop them without killing them. Lloyd is surprised by her request, but Claire says that these monsters are just innocent creatures whom the demons brainwashed by stealing her power. She feels partially responsible for this too, and that is why she doesn't want the monsters to get hurt. Lloyd realizes that Claire is a true animal lover who cares even about monsters, and he promises to find a way that can stop the monsters with the least amount of harm. Claire gets really happy at this, and then Lloyd looks at the monster horde before asking her if she can send them back home using her power. Claire is not confident that she can command all the monsters, and Lloyd tells her that he will increase her mana capacity and spell efficiency. Claire decides to give it a try and steps ahead. Lloyd gets ready to buff her up, but she is unable to cast her spell because of the interference of a dark device in the forest. Back in the city, Alan has reached the Adventurers Guild, and he mocks the adventurers gathered, calling them too weak for the job. The adventurers are offended by this, and then Alan's girls tell him that all rank and above parties are out of town. He mocks them even more, and one guy gets ready to throw hands. His friend stops him because they shouldn't fight the hero, and luckily, the guild master arrives before the situation worsens. He says that they are here to fight monsters and not each other, and Alan scoffs as he gets up to declare his plan. He says that their mages will start the fight by firing their most powerful spells to kill as many monsters as they can, and after that, he will lead the knights and other fighters to hold back the monsters while the mages recharge their mana. Alan believes that a bunch of monsters won't be a problem with his brilliant strategy, but the other adventurers wonder if he was dropped as a child. Alan notices their dissatisfaction and asks if they have something to say. A mage nervously says that they don't have enough power to kill a bunch of monsters in one hit, and others agree, saying that even killing one is a pretty big order. Alan yells at them, saying that this is the bare minimum they should be able to do, but then the mage of his own party says that she is not so confident either. She claims that the power of her spells has been decreasing recently, and she can't do powerful attacks like before. Alan yells at her, asking why did she hide it from him all this time, and the girl timidly tells him that she is not the only one because everyone else in the party has also felt their performance decline ever since Lloyd was kicked. Alan loses his temper on hearing this, asking why did they betray him by staying silent for so long, and Rena tells him that they didn't betray him, he just didn't notice because he grew complacent ever since becoming a hero. She says that he has not even trained in a bit, so that makes it even more pitiful that he hasn't noticed a change in his strength. The crowd is aghast to learn that Alan has not been practicing, and he calls Rena a bitch for ratting him out. He tries to punch her, but she easily blocks his ass attack, making him lose even more aura in front of everyone. He runs away in embarrassment and his girls follow him, but Rena stays behind. The other adventurers panic because they can't win against the monsters when the hero is this weak, but Rena tells them to calm down because she will assume the command. She declares her intentions to leave Alan's party because he is no longer fit to be called a hero, and she will fight alongside all of them. Everyone is relieved to hear this, and Rena says that their best chance at survival is to find the white mage named Lloyd. Meanwhile, Lloyd and Claire find a black magistone, which is the thing that is blocking her spells. Lloyd tells her that they found this magistone in another location as well, and this is what's controlling the monsters. He says that they need to destroy it, and Claire says that there must be multiple magistones nearby, because the horde is too large to be controlled by just one. Lloyd asks her if she can detect the magistones, and she replies that she can only do it when they are close to her. That is enough for Lloyd, and he uses his search magic and sense-sharing spell combo to find the location of other magistones quickly. Claire hasn't even understood that part when he suddenly casts an invisibility spell on themselves so that they can get closer to the magistone without getting noticed by the monsters. Claire starts getting suspicious of Lloyd's abilities at this point, but she follows him to the magistone and neutralizes it with her powers. As soon as she does that, the monsters are freed from its control and leave the area. On the other hand, the adventurers and knights are ready to face the monsters at the city border, but the captain of the knights is anxious about their plan. The adventurer guild master, on the other hand, decides to believe Rena's words and puts his faith into Lloyd's hand. Earlier, as Rena told the adventurers about how Lloyd was the secret MVP of the heroes' party despite being a white mage. The adventurers couldn't believe this, but the guildmaster did, and he told Rena that they won't be able to get Lloyd's help this time because he is out of the city on a quest and will take a week to return. Rena was shocked to hear this, but she immediately calculated that Lloyd could shorten the duration of the travel. She asked everyone to gamble their lives on Lloyd returning, and since they have already made that decision, the guildmaster sees no point in worrying. Just then, the monster horde approaches them and Rena commands the archers and the mages to start attacking. The attacks weaken the monster formation, and as they jump into the trenches, powerful water currents sweep them away, buying more time for Lloyd and his party to return. Soon, the night arrives and Yui's group takes a break, hoping to reach Ishtar as quickly as possible to support Lloyd. Meanwhile, Lloyd and Claire also reach the last magistone and neutralize it. They are glad that all monsters are free now, but as soon as they are free, the panthers and the wolves start fighting each other. They knock over the magistone, hitting Claire and disrupting her invisibility. The monsters immediately turn their attention towards her and she panics, but Lloyd quickly runs away to the other side and shoots some fireworks to distract them. On the other hand, Rena and others are still holding off the monsters, when their right wing falls to the ruthless attack from the monsters. What is even worse is that more monsters are heading towards them, and just as everyone is about to give up hope, a powerful fire spell defeats the monsters. Everyone rejoices as they see Yui and her S-rank party joining the battle, because it means that Lloyd is close too. In the meantime, Lloyd is playing tag with two teams of monsters trying to catch him. He keeps dodging and running away, but realizes that his stamina is not infinite. Claire also notices that he is just dodging and not attacking the monsters, and she thinks that it is because she asked him not to hurt them. She decides to help him as he gets overwhelmed and starts singing a song. The monsters suddenly stop their aggression on hearing her song and quietly return to the forest, and Lloyd is really impressed. He asks Claire how she controlled the monsters, and she tells him that her power doesn't control them. It only conveys her feelings to them, and she asked them to go home. Lloyd thanks her for saving her life and says that they should return to Ishtar now, where Yui's party has given a new hope to the defense forces. However, even with their help, the monsters quickly overpower the humans. Rena also gets injured during the fight, and soon after that, the monsters break through the defense formation entirely. Everyone gives up hope, but just then, they hear Claire's sweet song that is being played at full volume thanks to Lloyd's support magic. Her magic suddenly pacifies the monsters, and they head home without attacking any human or another monster. Everyone is surprised by this, and Lloyd tells Claire that her amazing magic saved many lives here. However, the battle is still not over as a group of giant rock golems head towards the city, and Lloyd decides to stop them at any cost. On the other hand, the mastermind of the monster invasion, Michelle, is sipping wine and thinking that Ishtar might have already been destroyed by now. Just then, his servant comes in with urgent news, and Michelle thinks that it is the sweet news of their victory. However, the servant tells him that the monster horde has retreated and scattered instead of attacking Ishtar. Michelle can't believe this news at all, and he demands an explanation from his servant, but the poor fellow has no idea himself. Meanwhile, Claire tries to use her skills on the golems as well. But that doesn't work, and Lloyd realizes that the demons must be interfering. He decides to meet up with his party to discuss what they should do next and enchants himself as Claire so that they can run fast. They run straight through the horde of golems who notice them and try to attack them. They jump to the side to stay safe and then approach the trenches set up by the soldiers. Lloyd suddenly grabs Claire by her waist and jumps over the trench, and then some. Everyone is impressed by his enchantment magic, and they realize this is the guy Rena wanted them to trust. As soon as Lloyd lands on the ground, his party is there to greet him. He tells them that it is all thanks to Claire that the monsters are retreating, but now they have to deal with the golems. He suddenly falls to his knees, and his friends get worried that he is too exhausted after casting support magic non-stop. Lloyd, however, tells them that he will rest only after the battle is over. Just then, the guildmaster comes there to greet Lloyd, and he is surprised to see a furry with him. Lloyd asks him to take Claire to safety, and the guildmaster orders the knights to look after her. He then says that Lloyd is their only hope to win this battle, but Lloyd doesn't know who put this idea in his head. Just then, Rena comes there and tells him that Alan is not participating in the battle. Lloyd is surprised to hear this, and Rena explains that Alan clashed with the adventurers at the guild earlier and abandoned his duties. Lloyd can't believe he left the people of this city in danger despite being the hero, and Rena says that he doesn't even deserve to be the hero. Suddenly, she starts groaning in pain because she is injured, and Lloyd quickly heals her injury completely. The guildmaster is really impressed by this, but Lloyd collapses again. Rena helps him get back on his feet and then tells him that as long as he was in their party, they felt invincible, but once he left, they realized they were just above average. She says that she should have realized it earlier and stopped the others from kicking him out, but Lloyd doesn't believe he is anything special. Luckily, he doesn't have enough time to yap about how weak he is because the golems reach the front lines just then. Everyone gets ready to fight and decides to charge straight at the golems, and Lloyd yells at them to stay back because the golems are not ordinary. However, he is too late, and the knights find out about the golems being enchanted as their swords snap on hitting them. The golem hits the knights away, and Rena immediately takes charge of the battlefield again. She commands the magicians and archers to attack the golem from a distance, but their attacks don't do any damage. The golem crosses the trench, pushing the soldiers back, and everyone starts to panic. Lloyd decides to cast buffs on everyone, but his friends tell him it might be too much for him. Lloyd says he can handle it and casts 2 enchantment spells on all people according to their needs. However, that exhausts him even further, and he thinks that the magic effects won't last for too long. He tells his friends to hurry up and finish the battle, and Yui immediately climbs on the scaffolding to tell everyone about the incredible buffs Lloyd has cast on them. She says they can easily win this fight now, but the knights have a hard time believing her. Just then, a golem attacks them and they panic, but Rena comes in clutch and saves their ass. Following her lead, Yui attacks the golem, destroying it. Rena uses that to advertise the strength of Lloyd's enchantment magic, and she tells everyone that they are much stronger right now. Everyone immediately verifies it, and their confidence soars through the sky. Lloyd asks his friends to support everyone, but he is feeling really weak now, and the guild master takes him to a place where he can rest. Meanwhile, Cross begins leading the archers to shoot the fireballs to land double damage on the golems. Dagas and Silica also fight on the front lines, taking down multiple golems with her powerful magic. The fight continues, and soon, almost all the golems are destroyed. Yui sets her eyes on the last one remaining, but another adventurer tries to get the jump on her. However, as he strikes the golem, his sword shatters and everyone realizes that Lloyd's spells have reached their limit. Everyone gets scared and runs away as the golem approaches the city gates, but Yui stands in its way. However, just as it is about to attack her, Rena tackles her to get her to safety, and Dagas blocks the heavy attack. Lloyd realizes that they can't win on their own, so he uses the last bit of his power to enchant Yui's sword. She sees this and asks Rena and Dagas to support her. They combine their strengths to block the attack, and then Yui attacks the golem, destroying it with one slash. Everyone starts celebrating their victory that they once thought was impossible, and Lloyd finally gives himself the chance to relax, passing out immediately. On the other side, the demon general Grist reaches Michelle's castle to complain about his utter failure. Not only did they fail to destroy Ishtar, even Claire was taken away from them. However, he doesn't find Michelle there, so he destroys his office instead, and swears to end his life the next time he sees him. Back in the city, Lloyd wakes up after a day of sleeping soundly. Yui comes to check up on him, and he begins and crying that he fainted because he was weak. Yui doesn't even want to argue with him at this point, so she tells him to come with her. As soon as she opens the inn's door, the people outside start cheering on Lloyd, calling him their hero. He gets nervous at this and closes the door because he can't handle so many people at once. Yui gets angry at him and tells him to go out and face his fans. He does get out, but through the window, so that he doesn't have to deal with everyone. On the other hand, Merlin's spy, Will, reaches her door and she immediately blows it up, thinking that he is a thief. However, Will doesn't even get a scratch from the blast, and Merlin lets him in, where other members of her party are already present. Merlin then asks Will about Lloyd, and he tells her that he was kicked from the heroes' party. She is shocked to hear that, but Will tells her it is a good thing because his new party treats him much better. However, he also informs her about Lloyd's lack of confidence and impossible standards when it comes to himself. Merlin knows she is to be blamed for that, but she doesn't want him to repeat the mistakes that she did in the past. Back in the city, Lloyd is hiding from the crowd because he doesn't understand why they are chasing him. His party finds him and tells him that everyone is just grateful to him because he saved the city. Lloyd doesn't think he deserves such attention, but everyone tells him that he should have a bit more confidence in himself. Following their words, Lloyd decides to greet the crowd, but he still doesn't think that he deserves all this attention. He tells the people that they should give more credit to the knights and the adventurers, but they themselves give all the credit to him. They call him the hero of Ishtar, and Lloyd decides to do his best to get used to this treatment. On the other hand, Alan is pissed that everyone is calling Lloyd a hero, and his girls remind him that his hero title will be revoked because he denied an emergency request. He knows that too, and he decides to ditch the town along with his girls. Back in Merlin's residence, everyone has a drink, because today is the day their friend hero Sybil sacrificed his life to kill the Demon King and save the people who got caught in the crossfire. Will then suddenly drops the bombshell on everyone, telling them that the demons are on the move again, and they tried to use beastman magic to make monsters attack Ishtar. He suspects that they are trying to revive the Demon King, and Merlin panics because that would erase everything Sybil sacrificed his life for. Others tell her to calm down because they need to do what they can to ensure that the world remains safe. A few days later, Lloyd, along with his party, is summoned by the city lord. A young man comes to take them inside, and they find Claire already waiting for them. Everyone is glad to see her and ask if the lord summoned her too, but the young man tells her that she is his special guest. He then introduces himself as Lord Abel, the guy who runs this domain, and no one can believe it because they thought he was just a servant or something. Silica says that it is common knowledge that the Lord has ruled this territory for over a decade, and Abel looks too young for that. He replies that he has got the same anti-aging DNA that Ash Ketchum has, and Lloyd remarks that even Merlin is the same. Abel says they will talk about it some other day, because right now, he has something more important to discuss. He reveals that Claire is actually the second princess of the Fora's empire where the beast folk live, and Lloyd can't believe it. Claire affirms this, and everyone else is also surprised to hear the truth. Abel says that Claire's power to control monsters is quite unique, and if it falls in the wrong hands, it can lead to disaster. That is why the Empire has been searching for her, and now that she has been rescued, they are going to take her back home soon. Abel says that he wants Lloyd's party to escort Claire to the royal capital where the Beastmen will come to take her, because he trusts they can face any enemy, even demons. Though it is unusual for adventurers to guard members of royalty, everyone understands that they need to keep Claire's identity a secret, and they agree to become her bodyguards. 10 days pass after their journey starts, but they are still not near the royal capital yet. Cross complains that the capital is really far, but Daggaz reminds him that they are taking the longer route on purpose to stay safe. Yui, on the other hand, is not bothered by the long journey at all. She is more interested in hitting the hot springs that are in the next town, and she asks Claire if she has ever been to them. Cross finds her relaxed attitude annoying, but Silica says that her cheerful attitude makes the journey bearable, and it is also good for Claire to have some new experiences. Cross starts to think that Yui has actually thought this through, but in the end it turns out that she just wanted to have fun. Later that evening, they reach the hot spring town, and the girls have fun ogling each other in their pool. Meanwhile, the guys are rubbing each other's back, and Lloyd starts thinking about the demon attack. He thinks that the closer they get to the capital, the greater the chances are that demons will get impatient and attack them. However, they can't deploy a full-sized army here, so they will only send their elite forces to kidnap Claire. As he thinks about it, he starts rubbing Cross's back a little too hard. Cross tells him that it hurts, but Lloyd keeps thinking of improving his spells while absent-mindedly giving him rough back shots. Later, Loud tells everyone that they should stay in this city for a few days to prepare themselves for any sudden demon attacks. Silica agrees with his idea, and so does Dagas, because he wants to improve his gear. Silica says that she will also experiment with new skills, and Cross says that he is fine either way, but he can use this time to do some maintenance on his bow. With that, Yui decides that they will stay in the town for a couple of weeks, and Lloyd is determined to grow even stronger to help his friends. The next day, Dagas begins searching all the weapon shops one by one to find the right gear for himself. He is disappointed no matter which shop he tries, and he doesn't know what to do. Just then, he spots Yui and Claire, who are just enjoying their break. Dagas tells them that he wants a new shield but can't find a good replacement in any weapon shop. Yui understands that it is hard to find quality equipment in random cities, but Claire says that she saw a shop in a quiet alley a while ago, and she thinks that it has better weapons than one would think. Dagas decides to trust her and checks out the weapon store she mentioned. He finds no one there, but then begins looking at the weapons on display. He judges that they are high-quality items, and just then, the shop owner comes there. He seems really angry and rude, and asks Dagas what the hell does he want. He then asks him if he is with those bastards too, and Dagas nervously replies that he is just checking out some shields. The old man tells him to feel free in that case, but now Dagas is confused about what is going on. After a while, he gets even more confused because every weapon in the shop is high quality, but there is no customer at all. Just then, a group of adventurers arrive there, and they are surprised to see Dagas there. Their leader, Karen, asks him if he is here to buy weapons, and when Dagas affirms, everyone starts laughing at him. They call him a stupid low-rank adventurer who doesn't even know which shop to buy weapons from. Just then, the shop owner comes there, and turns out he has beef with the rowdy bunch who just came in because they are the reason his business is not doing well. Dagas steps up for the old man, asking if these guys are some kind of takeover gang, and everyone says that he must be an outsider because everyone here knows about the A-rank adventurer Karen. Dagas asks why an A-rank adventurer is harassing the shopkeeper, and Karen tells him that it is the old man's fault for not selling the special item to him. The old man replies that he won't even be able to use it, and he can't sell a weapon to someone who is not worthy of wielding it. Karen says that he will have to teach a lesson to him in that case and starts cracking his knuckles. Dagas says that this is shameful behavior for an A-rank adventurer, and Karen's lackey decides to attack him first. However, Dagas easily blocks his fist and then knocks him to the ground, causing everyone to back up. He then pulls his shield out of the storage and pushes everyone outside before shutting the door on their face. Karen is flustered by this and asks how can a random nobody defeat an A-rank adventurer like him. Dagas opens the door to flex his S-rank tag in front of him, and everyone is shocked. Even the old man asks Dagas why didn't he show his rank earlier to avoid the entire situation, and he replies that it is lame to rely on rank rather than strength. Karen and his lackeys run away on hearing this, but the old shopkeeper is impressed by his skills and character, and he decides to leave his treasure with Dagas. On the other hand, Lloyd is trying to improve a spell when Yui and Claire return from their sightseeing. They are curious about what Lloyd is doing, and he tells them that he is trying to make his support spells more powerful, but it is time that he learns some new spells. Yui recommends that he learn some attack magic, and Lloyd tells her that he won't be any good at it because white mages are not talented at offensive spells. He says that if Silica's firepower is comparable to a flamethrower, his attack power will only be equal to a matchstick. He begins glazing Silica after this, who is in the forest at the moment. She relaxes in the embrace of nature, and then begins thinking how their last mission would have been a disaster if Lloyd was not around. That is why she wants to grow stronger, and she starts working on creating a new and more powerful flame spell. However, she can't master it even after multiple attempts, but she is not ready to give up yet. Back at the inn, Yui says that she has known Silica since childhood, and she has always been hailed as a genius with an enormous amount of mana. However, that is not the only thing that makes her so powerful as a mage. Yui remembers the time she saw Silica practicing her aim relentlessly despite failing badly every time, and she says that the most special thing about her is that she never gives up until she achieves her goal. Silica displays that same commitment and determination in her current practice as well, and she keeps trying her new spell until she manages to cast it successfully. However, as she gets excited because of her success, she slips and the spell goes out of control once again, ending in an explosion. Silica gets drenched after falling into the pond, and she is disappointed at her clumsiness. She decides to head back home for today, when suddenly, she hears something approaching her. She gets ready to fight in case it is a monster, but surprisingly, it is just Dagas. Dagas tells her the story about what happened at the shop, and how the old man pulled out a legendary shield made from the most durable materials in the world to thank him. He said that no ordinary person could use it, but still Karen and his minions come to pester him about it each day. The shopkeeper told Dagas that he could possibly use the legendary shield, but before he gave it to him, he had a condition. He wanted Dagas to investigate the mysterious explosions in the forest that were terrorizing the people in the city. He wanted him to find if there was a monster or a demon behind the explosions and stop them to earn the shield. And that brings Dagas here. Silica is not happy being compared to a monster or a demon, but Dagas tells her to look at what she did. Silica turns around and is horrified when she finds that the entire lake has evaporated as a result of her spell. Anyway, Dagas takes her to the shopkeeper to tell her that he resolved the problem, and Silica apologizes profusely before telling him that she repaired the lake with her magic. The old man just laughs at this and says that it is all good since no real damage was done. He then tells Dagas to take the shield as per their agreement. Dagas says that he didn't even resolve the problem, but the old man trusts him enough to leave the shield in his care now. Dagas accepts the shield and later, he shows it to his friends. Silica also tells them that she created a new spell, and everyone is excited on hearing about their progress. Lloyd wants to catch up to them, and even Cross starts feeling pressured to improve. However, Yui tells them that there is no point in hurrying things and they should do things at their own pace. The next day, Cross decides that he also needs to do something to get stronger because Dagas and Silica have already produced results. He has already done maintenance on his bow and is training hard as well. But he knows that it is not enough to make him improve suddenly. As he wonders what can he do to become better, he bumps into a young archer who is running to the guild in a hurry. Cross helps him get up and then sees his adventurer tag. The boy asks him if he is an adventurer too, and when Cross affirms, he requests him to join his party. In the end, Cross can't say to the puppy eyes of the boy named Lin, and he joins his party for one mission. They go to the guild, where Cross asks Lin why doesn't he already have a party because archers are not suited to go solo. Lin goes silent on hearing this question, but the other adventurers start mocking him, saying that he found a new guy to latch onto. They say that he will always remain an E-ranked adventurer, and will just drag down the people who are teaming up with him. Cross now understands why Lin was so desperate earlier, and the boy immediately apologizes for making him join his party. However, Cross assures him that it is fine because he is also stuck at his rank. Lin gets happy to hear this as he thinks that he finally found someone who understands him. On the other hand, Yui is trying to hit all the famous restaurants in the town, but she is also worried about her increasing body fat. While she is debating if she should eat out or not, she sees a commotion nearby. A noble lady is lashing out at a poor kid who got mud on her dress, and she orders her guards to unalive him. The townspeople don't even want to bother with that because her family is quite powerful, but Yui steps in and tells the woman to stop. The woman gets furious at this and asks her if she even knows who she is talking to. Yui replies that she is talking to a hag who can't act her age, and she is lashing out on a kid because she is a disgraceful Karen. The woman gets furious and commands her guards to attack Yui first. Meanwhile, Yui tells the boy to run away and then summons her sword to block the attack from the guards. Everyone is shocked at seeing a sword come out of nowhere, but the woman tells them to keep attacking her. At the same time, Cross and Lin go to the forest where they spot a group of red slimes. Cross thinks that even an E-rank adventurer can take down the red slimes, and he decides to assist him. He immediately summons his bow and arrows out of his storage spell, and Lin freaks out on seeing this. He asks Cross how he did that, and he pretends that it is the only spell he is good at. Anyway, Cross destroys some slime cores with his precise strikes, and Lin is impressed. Cross tells him to attack the slimes too, and he immediately takes aim. However, Lin's aim is so bad that even the Stormtrooper Academy will not take him in, and Cross realizes that it is going to be a long day for him. Meanwhile, Yui is toying with the woman's guards and treating them like warm-up. While the woman is going mad with each passing moment, the townspeople recognize Yui as an S-rank adventurer and realize that the guards can't beat her. However, the noblewoman has her mage hiding among the crowd, and she signals her to trap Yui using magic. The mage casts a spell that ties Yui in chains, draining her mana and stamina. She can't break free from the spell, and the woman orders her guards to kill her. However, just then, a mysterious woman arrives there, telling them to fight fairly. The noble bitch tells her to get out of her way, and instead, the hooded woman becomes the Flash and knocks out the guards as well as the mage before anyone can see. The noble woman is aghast on seeing this, and then the hooded woman swiftly approaches her, knocking her out just by scaring her shitless. After that, Yui thanks the mysterious woman who saved her life and asks how she can become as strong as her. The woman tells her that she is pretty strong for her age, but Yui wants to become stronger since she wants to catch up to Lloyd. The woman is surprised to hear Lloyd's name and removes her hood, revealing that she is one of Merlin's party members. She wants to help Lloyd out for Merlin's sake, so she agrees to train Yui for a bit. They go to the forest where the woman tells Yui to call her Lilith. Yui realizes that it might not be her real name, and she feels that Lilith is shady, but she is a good person. Lilith then summons a massive sword out of her storage spell, and she is shocked when Yui recognizes the spell. On the other hand, Lloyd is racking his brain as he tries to come up with a new spell, and his friends get worried about him. They tell him to take a break, and then Claire offers him to come on a walk with her. They go to a nearby restaurant to eat some sweets, and then Lloyd suddenly asks Claire if the spell she uses to communicate with monsters is an ancient spell. Meanwhile, Cross teaches Lynn how to use a bow properly, and the boy picks it up pretty quickly. At the same time, Lilith also starts Yui's training, and tells her to cut a tree that is a few feet away from her. Yui thinks that it is impossible, but then Lilith sends a flying slash made of mana towards the tree, cleanly cutting it in two. Yui is impressed by this technique, and she decides to give it a try too. Back in the restaurant, Claire affirms that she uses ancient magic, and Lloyd asks if he can also learn ancient spells because they are incredibly powerful and effective. Claire tells him that he cannot, because people with the potential to use ancient magic are born once in many centuries. If people who don't have an aptitude for ancient magic use it, they face great negative effects. She talks about a great mage who used an ancient spell, even though he didn't have the potential for that, and as a result, he lost his life on the spot. That is why she wants Lloyd to stop thinking about ancient magic, because just attempting it would put his life in danger. Lloyd understands and decides to give up on that approach and figure out something else instead. Back in the forest, Cross and Lynn have defeated all the slimes, and Cross says that it would have been quicker if they had a special bow that could allow them to use rapid fire skills. He tells Lynn to collect the slime bodies, but just then, a giant spider monster arrives there and begins eating the slimes. Cross tries attacking it, but his arrow is not effective against it. He realizes that they need magic or rapid fire skill to defeat the monster, but he doesn't have the tools for that right now. However, Lynn has an idea, and he tells Cross to summon the arrows out of storage rather than pulling them out of his quiver to save time. Cross tries his idea, and surprisingly, it greatly reduces his draw speed. He is able to launch a barrage of arrows on the spider's head, killing it. They return to the guild with that, and Cross lets Lynn take all the credit for the mission so that other adventurers start considering him a skilled archer. After that, Lynn asks Cross if he is actually a high-ranked adventurer, and he starts tweaking as he sees that Cross is an S-ranked adventurer. On the other hand, Yui is trying to learn the flying slash technique, but it is much harder than she thought. However, Lilith is confused because it was quite easy for her. Yui wonders what kind of monster she is, but she keeps trying to learn the skill. Lilith asks her why is she so desperate to grow stronger, and Yui tells her how she became overconfident after reaching S rank, but Lloyd humbled her, and now she wants to become as strong as him. Lilith is impressed by that, and just then, a monster pounces on her from behind. Yui spots it and warns her, but Lilith doesn't move, and in an attempt to save her, Yui sends a flying slash towards the monster. Her attack cuts through the monster, and Lilith congratulates her on finally learning the flying slash. Yui also realizes that she managed to use the skill when it really mattered, but with that, she suddenly falls asleep. Lilith drops her outside the inn and vanishes before anyone sees her. The next morning, Yui is excited to resume their journey, and Lloyd is tweaking because he thinks he didn't make any progress during this time, even though he created new spells and improved existing ones. On the other hand, the demon General Grist reports his failures to his boss, who is really disappointed in him. He shames him for not being able to capture a single human city even with the huge monster army, and Grist promises that he will not fail again. His boss, probably the Demon Lord, commands him to find Claire before anything, and he accepts the order. Once outside the castle, Grist begins throwing a tantrum because he doesn't have a single lead. But just then, Michelle, the mastermind behind the previous attack, shows up. Grist is angry at him and asks how dare he show his face here, and Michelle replies that he has not received payment for the previous mission. Grist wants to tear him apart immediately, but then Michelle tells him that Claire is heading towards the capital of the human empire, and instead of knights, a bunch of S-rank adventurers are guarding her. Grist asks why he is telling him this, and Michelle replies that he needs to clear up his reputation after the previous failure, and he wants to help the demons in capturing Claire. Meanwhile, Lloyd and his party continue their journey when suddenly, they sense some motion in the bushes. They get alert, but luckily, it turns out to be just a bunny. To be sure, Lloyd uses his search spell and finds that there are no demons nearby. They decide to take a break after that, and Lloyd starts staring at Yui like a creep. He tells her that it looks like she and everyone else have mastered something new, because they were full of confidence earlier when they got ready to smoke the rabbit. He, on the other hand, feels anxious because he doesn't think his preparations are enough. Yui tells him that he should have more confidence in himself, and Claire supports her. She tells Lloyd that he is the most powerful member of the group, but he thinks she is talking out of her ass. However, other members of the group also feel the same. They tell Lloyd that they trained in the village to catch up to him, and he needs to realize his true strength, because that is where real confidence comes from. Yui tells him that if he underestimates himself, he won't even know how to improve, and Lloyd replies that he will work on being more confident from now on. On the other side, Merlin decides to visit an old friend who lives in a castle. The guards stop her from entering, so she uses magic to brainwash them and enters the castle, but she knows that most of it is an illusion. She soon reaches a wall and dispels the illusion cast on it to reveal a door, but just as she is about to knock, the door opens and a furry pulls her in. Merlin asks the furry named Ryon how did she know she was here, and she replies that she could smell her magic power. Anyway, Merlin gets to business and inquires about the Demon Kingdom. Ryon tells her that the son of the previous Demon King's son runs the magic kingdom of demons, but they can assume that this generation of demons is not as strong as the previous one. After that, Merlin starts praising Ryon's research, but she believes that Merlin is much more amazing because she can cast magic without incantation, and she invented many new types of spells by studying ancient magic. However, Merlin is not here to talk about herself. She pulls out an ancient magic book from her storage spell and asks Ryon to analyze it. She wants to know if they can use this half-book to seal the Demon Lord, which makes Ryon worried because that means the Demon Lord can revive. Back in the forest, Lloyd and others decide to be more careful because it is about to get dark soon. Lloyd decides to do one wide-range scan of the area, but something interferes with his spell. Suddenly, a thick fog starts filling up the area unnaturally, and when Silica tries to disperse it with magic, she finds that she can't even summon her staff. Lloyd remarks that it seems the work of demons who are manipulating the mist with magic to prevent them from using their weapons. They immediately start running towards the village to get out of the fog, and Yui says that if the demons are blocking magic with the fog, they won't be able to find them either. Lloyd replies that they might have some hidden means to find them, and even if the demons fail, there is the danger of monsters attacking them. At the same time, Ryon finishes analyzing the book, and she tells Merlin that it still has traces of magic left behind by their friend Sybil. Merlin gets bittersweet feelings on hearing that, and she says that it is the final message of Sybil. She then asks Ryon if she remembers the orphan named Lloyd whom she adopted, and reveals that he once touched the book and turned out that he is compatible with ancient magic. That makes him a chosen one, just like her and Sybil. Ryon says that it is still not easy for people to use ancient spells until they hit the peak of their profession, and Merlin says that she trained Lloyd hard so that he would become powerful. However, she failed to understand his emotions, and he ran away from the house to become an adventurer. She states that right now, Lloyd is escorting the Beastman princess to the capital, and she came here to see him again because she misses him terribly. On the other hand, Lloyd and his friends reach the village, but it is also covered in fog. Lloyd amplifies Silica's magic power so that she can summon her staff, and once she gets it, she uses a wind spell to blow away the fog, revealing a gang of demons standing in front of them. Claire immediately recognizes Grist as her kidnapper from the last time, and he tells Lloyd and others to hand over the girl to him because he has use for her. He sends his wizard underlings to attack first, but now that Lloyd and others can use magic, they summon their weapons and get ready to fight. Yui sends flying slashes towards the enemies to take them down, and Silica attacks them with fireballs. Cross climbs on a watchtower and rapid fires arrows to take down the wizards before they can put up their guard. Meanwhile, Grist walks towards Claire unbothered by anything, and when Cross tries to shoot him, his arrows just bounce off. Even Yui's flying slash is useless against him, and Grist simply charges towards Claire. Dagas blocks his punch with his legendary shield, and Yui uses this chance to attack his exposed back. However, her sword stops at a distance away from Grist's back, almost as if he has copied Gojo's Infinity. Lloyd realizes that he is releasing magic power to make it work as an invisible armor, and Grist decides to deal with him first because he seems the smartest guy here. He jumps up to attack him, but Silica attacks him with her new spell. Even that doesn't do much damage, and Grist moves behind Lloyd and others while the smoke clears. His underlings close in on them as well, but as everyone panics, a huge wave of ice sweeps through the street, freezing all the wizards but sparing Lloyd and others. It was cast by a beastman who is here to save Claire, and he is not the only one assisting Lloyd's party. The green-haired spy named Will is also there, and he confronts Michelle, who is behind spreading the fog. While the two of them talk more and fight less, the beastman climbs down from his perch and heads towards Claire. He declares that all adventurers are useless, but he will give them a pass this time since they kept Claire safe. She immediately runs towards the guy and introduces him as her childhood best friend and the ice crystal hero, Syrian. Yui has heard about Syrian and his foul manners, and his behavior only proves that the rumors about him being a mannerless brute are true. However, he folds whenever Claire scolds him, and the girls get a bit curious about their friendship. Just then, Grist breaks free from his ice prison, and everyone gets ready to fight him, but Syrian tells them to stay back because he will deal with this bastard himself. He kicks the ground and sends an ice wave to freeze him, but Grist breaks free of that easily. He kicks some ice crystals towards Syrian, who catches them easily and launches an intense attack on him. While Grist initially evades all the attacks, he starts having trouble as the battle goes on. Syrian goes batshit crazy with his attacks, but Lloyd thinks that he is not fast or skilled enough to stop Grist from counterattacking. Suddenly, he notices that Grist is taking cold damage because he is not using his magic armor. This makes him realize that something is fishy, and he warns Syrian to be careful. However, this arrogant douchebag refuses to listen to an adventurer, and that turns out to be his worst mistake. During the battle, Grist was compressing magic in his fist, and once he has charged up enough magic power, he leaps towards Syrian to finish him. Lloyd immediately warns everyone to take cover, and as Syrio and Grist clash, a huge explosion rocks the place. When the explosion fizzles out, Lloyd uses his search skill to confirm that all the members of his party are safe, but he can't notice where Claire and Syrian are. He gets an answer to one half of his question as he sees the unconscious Claire with Grist, who declares that he is going to take her away with him. Just then, a huge floating ship arrives there and Grist grabs onto it and flies away, with Lloyd and his friends just watching helplessly. As Lloyd watches Claire getting taken away, Syrian comes out from the rubble. Despite being injured, he creates an ice pillar to take him to Claire. However, the moment he is about to grab Grist, his powers run out and the ice pillar shatters. Syrian begins falling to the ground, and Lloyd immediately tells Silica to use wind magic to make him land safely. As soon as Syrian lands on his feet, he gets ready to attack again, but Lloyd stops him, telling him that they can't do anything against an enemy in the sky. Syrian tells him to piss off, but then he notices that his injuries have been healed. Lloyd says that he did it, confusing Syrian because he didn't even notice him cast a spell. Yui and others also gather around and ask Lloyd what they should do next, and he tells them that he has a plan. Syrian, however, refuses to listen to him, but everyone tells him that he can't do anything in this situation, and he should trust Lloyd because he is much smarter than anyone else here. Syrian is irritated, but in the end, he agrees to cooperate with them so that they can rescue Claire. Meanwhile, Grist is really happy with how their mission turned out, and he credits the flying ship for that. He tells Michelle that he should have brought out the ship during their previous attack at Ishtar City. Michelle replies that he didn't even have the prototype ready back then, but now he has acquired a power source that can move such a giant machine. He then shows the power source to Grist and tells him that it is a fragment of the previous Demon Lord's body. Grist is shocked to hear this, and Michelle explains that the previous Demon Lord blew himself up, but he managed to find a fragment of his body that still contained his mana. He developed a device to extract that mana and use it to power this ship. Grist is not happy that he is using their respected Demon Lord as a battery, but Michelle laughs, saying that he is a scientist at heart and likes to discover new things. Just then, his ship's alarm rings and Michelle immediately goes to the control panel to see what is happening. He finds that Syrian is creating ice blocks and using them as stepping stones to jump towards them, and Lloyd's party is following in his footsteps. Syrian is really impressed that Lloyd has created anti-gravity magic, but Lloyd tells him that it is only a short-range spell and they need the footholds to reach closer to the ship. They soon reach the ship and summon their weapons from storage, but Grist also comes out to face them. He is confident that he can beat everyone just like he did the last time, but this time, Lloyd casts powerful buffs on everyone. Syrian attacks Grist first, but once again, his magic armor blocks everything. However, Lloyd sneakily casts another spell on Grist and then signals his friends to attack. Silica sends acidic fog towards him, but Grist just dispels it using magic, and then Yui and others also launch a barrage of attacks on him. However, Grist's magic armor repels them all and kicks their asses once again. He asks Syrian if he thought that he could defeat him this time, and he replies that he knew he couldn't beat him by himself. Grist says that even the entire group can't beat him, and then charges up his magic punch again. He is about to hit Syrian, but Dagas comes forward to shield him. Grist gathers magic in his fist again, but then suddenly, it freezes and shatters. He is absolutely dumbfounded by this and wonders how did he lose his arm when not a single attack reached him. Syrian tells him that it is because of frostbite from the chilly winds surrounding them, and Grist still can't get what that means. Lloyd steps forward and explains that when Syrian first attacked him, he cast a spell on Grist so that he became unable to feel pain. After that, they just had to tire him out and wait for the frostbite to take over his body. Lloyd tells Grist that his magic armor is really strong, but it can only protect him from the attacks he can see or sense otherwise. With his pain receptors blocked, he had no way of knowing how badly the cold air was hurting his body. Grist asks how the hell did he even figure it out, and Lloyd replies that during his fight with Syrian earlier, he saw his hair freezing even though he avoided all attacks. That made him realize that if he can't notice an attack, it will deal damage to him, and he made sure that everyone kept attacking him to distract him while Syrian cast his spell. Grist is pissed at this, but suddenly the pain nullification magic starts wearing off, and his arm begins hurting. He immediately runs back inside the ship and tries to free the monsters that Michelle is researching on. Michelle tells him to stop because he is not done studying the monsters completely, but Grist doesn't care because he needs someone else to fight the adventurers. Just then, Lloyd and others arrive inside the ship and spot Claire trapped in a cage. Syrian gets angry and demands the kidnappers to release Claire, and the impatient Grist breaks the locks of the monster cages. Michelle panics as his experiment subjects are let out from their cages, but they are completely out of control now, and a giant snake begins coiling around Grist. This gives Michelle an idea, and he decides to conduct an experiment to see how the monsters perform in real battle. He pulls out a magic device from underneath the floor and cranks it up, releasing a magical sound wave that brainwashes all the monsters into obeying him. In the meantime, Syrian destroys the prison Claire was being kept inside and brings her to safety. However, before they can take her and run away, Lloyd's group finds the monsters ready to attack them at Michelle's command. They draw their weapons to fight back, but Claire stands in their way, asking them not to harm the innocent creatures. She suddenly starts using her ancient magic to control the monsters, and they are freed from Michelle's brainwashing. However, her magic creates some side effects as well, and the ship starts rattling as Michelle's magic circles begin to malfunction. He wonders what is happening, and at the same time, Grist takes the support of the ship's power system to maintain his balance, only to get a powerful shock that knocks him out cold. At this point, Michelle realizes that the ancient spell Claire used resonated with the Demon King's fragment, causing it to go into overdrive mode. He realizes that it will explode if they let it be and immediately takes it out of the magic device, cooling it immediately. However, because of that, the ship starts falling down, but Lloyd uses his anti-gravity magic to stabilize it. Suddenly, Grist starts acting weird, and he orders Michelle to give the Demon Lord's fragment to him. Michelle realizes that the consciousness of the Demon Lord has hijacked Grist's brain and it is trying to use him as a vessel. He is really excited to see how it turns out and throws the fragment towards Grist, causing him to emit powerful dark mana. The monsters are terrified of him and soon, they get sucked into the dark mana vortex which starts wobbling and changing shape. Then suddenly, the dark mana disperses and Grist comes out of it in the form of a chimera. Everyone is horrified to see this, but Michelle is really thrilled because everything is an experiment to him. However, Grist has completely lost his mind, and he attacks him first, ending his life on the spot, but like a true man of science, Grist is happy about his discoveries till the last breath. After that, the chimera turns its attention towards Lloyd and his group, and they are not sure if they can beat it. Meanwhile, Merlin is heading out of Rion's castle when she suddenly finds Will in front of her with an urgent report. Back in the ship, as the monster attacks them, Lloyd buffs up Daggers to block its attack, and Daggers realizes that he can't block more than a couple more hits. Everyone else decides to evacuate the ship because they are still falling rapidly, but then the chimera jumps over them and blocks the exit. Syrian summons his ice sword to fight it, but Claire stops him, telling him that there are innocent creatures inside the chimera and they shouldn't hurt them. While Syrian is a simp and accepts Claire's request, Yui and Cross start blasting the chimera with their long-distance attacks. However, the chimera breathes fire and wind out of its mouths, creating a fire tornado that deflects their attacks, and Lloyd starts panicking as he wonders how to get out of this situation alive. At the same time, Merlin and Will teleport to the area where Lloyd is, and Merlin feels dizzy because Will has designed the teleportation potion just for himself. As soon as she calms down, she uses the search spell to detect the location of the ship and shares it with Will. He drinks another bottle of the teleportation juice to reach their location. Meanwhile, Lloyd and his friends are still locked in their position because of the chimera. Silica tries blowing it out of the ship with her wind magic, but it blocks and deflects her attack with its wings. As everyone wonders what should they do in this situation, Lloyd gets an idea. He tells everyone to stick to the ship's walls and then asks them to put their weapons back in storage because he is going to release his gravity magic that is stabilizing the ship. Everyone listens to him and puts their weapons in storage, and then Lloyd stops his gravity magic, causing the ship to tilt to one side. The chimera falls to the bottom, unable to reach them, and everyone quickly runs outside using this chance. Lloyd is the last one to leave, and the chimera breathes fire at him, but he blocks it using a barrier before joining his friends outside. He then asks Syrian to create an ice block for them to stand on, but just then, the chimera comes out of the ship and destroys the ice block with its fire breath. Lloyd grabs Silica and Yui as he commands everyone to jump, and they decide to follow his reckless orders because they don't have any other choice. Everyone jumps out of the ship and Lloyd tells Syrian to create an ice block now. He obliges, and once everyone lands on the ice block, Silica pulls out her staff, recalling how she saved Syrian from falling to death earlier. She asks Lloyd to amplify her magic, and he tells her to wait for the right moment because if she is too early, they will all die. Silica waits for the right chance, and just as they reach close enough to the surface, Lloyd tells her to use the wind spell. Silica manages to slow down the fall of the ice block with her spell, buying everyone enough time to jump down to safety. Everyone thanks Silica for saving them, and she replies that it was only because of Lloyd. As Lloyd acts modest as always, Syrian begins to talk about how he always fought alone because he thought that other people would only drag him down. However, Lloyd changed his mind about that, and now he wonders just what kind of guy he is. Just then, the ship comes crashing down right on top of them, and they manage to get away from the crash course with just seconds to spare. The ship explodes as it hits the ground, and Claire begins to cry for the innocent monsters that were trapped inside it. However, the chimera is still alive, and as it comes out of the rubble, it suddenly grows in size and strength. Everyone is terrified of it, and Lloyd tells them to move to the forest because they will be safer there. At the same time, Merlin and Will teleport near them, and Merlin quickly locates Lloyd's group. She finds that they are hiding in the forest and talking about something, so she decides to get closer. Meanwhile, everyone is wondering what is the chimera and why is it chasing them. Lloyd thinks that it was Claire's ancient magic that awakened the Demon Lord's fragment, and it began looking for a body. It possessed Grist, but since that was not enough, it absorbed the monsters to make itself even more powerful. As for the reason it is following them, Lloyd believes that Grist's consciousness is still within the chimera, and he is still trying to capture Claire. Merlin and will reach their location just then, and they hide in the bushes to listen to Lloyd's plan. Gagas suggests that they hide Claire with concealment magic, but Lloyd believes that the Chimera won't stop following them. Syrian says that their only option is to kill it, but Claire doesn't want that. Everyone wonders if there is a way to save the monsters, and suddenly, Lloyd comes up with the idea to make Claire sing to the Chimera again. He believes that if he boosts her power and she conveys her feelings to get the monsters out of the Chimera, it can work. Syrian doesn't think that is a wise idea, but Lloyd is confident that it will work. Claire is happy that there is hope to turn the monsters back to normal, and she agrees to go with Lloyd's plan. However, just as they get ready to execute their plan, Merlin steps out and tells them to stop. Lloyd is shocked to see her, and Merlin tells him that he should stay away from ancient magic. He replies that he knows that, but Merlin tells him that he doesn't know shit. She says that ancient magic is dangerous, and anyone who gets involved with it has to pay the price. However, Lloyd tells her that Claire can use ancient magic, and with his support, she can save the day. Merlin is taken aback to see that her student has finally grown balls to speak back to her. Lloyd tells her that after he left her and met his friends, he realized that if he remains ignorant about his power, he will never grow stronger. He believes that he can clutch this scenario, and Merlin replies that she taught him never to be overconfident. Lloyd tells her that it is not overconfidence because now he knows exactly where he stands and how hard he has to work to grow stronger. Just then, the Chimera arrives there, and Lloyd leads his friends to face it while Merlin just stands at her place. She tries to convince herself that Lloyd will only support Claire's ancient magic and never use it himself to bring about another tragedy. But deep down, she knows that she can't stop him forever. On the other hand, Lloyd uses his support magic to buff up Syrian, who attacks the Chimera with an icicle rain. As the monster gets distracted while trying to block it, Lloyd climbs on its shoulder and uses his staff as an antenna to channel Claire's song directly into the monster's body. As he amplifies and channels the song into the Chimera's body, Lloyd feels a strange sensation, but he powers through it. The ancient magic of the song starts affecting the Chimera, and a black hole opens above it. Merlin is stunned on seeing this because only she knows what it means, but Lloyd is not even aware of the black hole as he makes sure that Claire's song works. The Chimera starts glowing and disintegrating, and the monsters drop out of it one by one, but the black hole begins absorbing the rest. Lloyd realizes it too late, and as he is celebrating their success, he suddenly finds himself and Grist being sucked into the black hole. His friends are shocked by this, but Merlin realizes that it is backlash from the ancient magic that is pulling Lloyd towards it. Soon, Lloyd and Grist vanish into the black hole, and Lloyd doesn't even realize what is wrong until he notices Grist's body disappearing. He then begins to wonder where he is, and suddenly, he finds his own body floating around. As he questions what is going on, he hears a strange voice, telling him that his body and mind are being slowly ripped apart. Lloyd asks if this is because of the ancient magic, and the voice affirms. Everyone outside the black hole is also able to hear it, and Merlin recognizes the voice because it belongs to Sybil. Sybil tells Lloyd that ancient magic is just the leftover of the magic that was once used by the people of ancient times who transcended the limits of being human. They developed magic that could change the laws of reality itself, but in the long run, their power brought chaos and destruction. Sybil suddenly materializes in front of Lloyd, telling him that the ancient people realized the dangers of their power too, and before the world could be completely ruined, they banned the use of ancient magic. However, they knew that there would come a time when such powerful magic would be needed, and they created a method to allow rare people to be born with the ability to use ancient magic. And to prevent anyone else from using ancient magic, the ancient people cast a spell on the entire world that destroyed anyone other than the inheritors of ancient magic if they tried to cast it. Lloyd has heard that story before, and he recalls that there was one man who used ancient magic even though he did not inherit it. Sybil declares that it was he who used ancient magic against the Demon Lord. Lloyd is shocked to hear this, and Sybil says that he and his friends were able to push the Demon Lord to the brink of defeat after a very hard battle. However, they relaxed their guard as they saw themselves winning, and that was their biggest mistake. Realizing that he was going to lose anyway, the Demon Lord decided to blow himself up, destroying the nearby city as well as Sybil's party members. On seeing this, Sybil used the forbidden ancient magic to bring back everyone at the cost of his own life. This time, Lloyd used the ancient magic accidentally, and now he is being taken away. The ground under them suddenly starts to darken, and Lloyd sees his body sinking. He panics, and Sybil tells him that there is still a chance for him to return. Lloyd asks how can he do that, and Sybil tells him to listen to his heart. As soon as Lloyd touches his chest, he remembers his friends, and at the same time, they call out his name, showing him the way out of the black hole. Lloyd follows their voice to go outside, and Sybil vanishes with a smile on his face after having completed his final task. Lloyd falls out of the black hole just as the sun rises, and his friends hug him tightly. Merlin watches them from a distance and thanks Sybil for saving Lloyd with tears running down her face. Soon after that, Lloyd and his friends safely escort Claire to the capital. Everyone still finds it hard to process that Lloyd's teacher is none other than the great sage Merlin, but he remarks that she doesn't seem like a saint at all. Just then, Claire also comes there to talk to them, and Sirian follows her. He asks her to come to the side and then apologizes because he lost the bag she made for him in the battle earlier. Claire tells him that it is not a problem because she can always make another one for him, and Sirian turns red from embarrassment. After that, they have a meeting with the king, who praises them for their bravery and also rewards them handsomely for protecting Claire. As they are heading back from the meeting, the furry researcher Ryan suddenly appears behind them and begins sniffing Lloyd. He thinks that she is a pervert, but Ryan gets offended by this. She tells him that she was only sniffing him because his magic smells similar to Merlin, and no one has any idea what she is talking about. Merlin comes there and explains how Ryan can tell people apart by the scent of their magic. Well, no one is interested in the furry anymore, and Lloyd's party starts simping after Merlin because she is a legendary magician. Lloyd still doesn't get why everyone is hyping her up so much, and then Merlin approaches him, asking if he wants to return home now. Lloyd replies that he wants to continue adventuring and learning about all sorts of spells so that he can create even more spells and become more useful to his friends. Merlin is happy to hear that, and she heads back home with Will, realizing that the danger of Demon Lord's revival is still present, and they will need Lloyd's power in the future. On the other hand, Lloyd and his friends reach the mansion that the king rewarded them with, and they are excited to continue their adventures together.